Hi, if you want to watch exclusive content with hot girls that you won't watch on YouTube, namely where Naruto roasts Kushina and Mikoto and many other hot girls without restrictions, then visit my Boosty channel at the link in the description.
What? Where am I? I'm all wet. An older man with a mustache and glasses, dressed in a suit, woke up in the water. Oh. It's so dark and scary here. Maybe someone will find me and save me from here? Or should I call for help and look for a way out myself? The man's eyes almost started to water. He didn't understand how he ended up here, where he was, and what he should do. Calm down, it looks like flooded catacombs. I hope there are no monsters here. Shaking with fear, the man went to look for a way out. This day was the birthday of another man, Uzumaki Naruto, and also the sealing of the fox demon into him. 12 years have passed. Land of Waves, battle on the bridge. Naruto was angry, his body was in pain, and his friend died in his arms because of him. He was going crazy and eventually. It seems it's time for someone to learn what real power is. There was no more anger and madness in the young man's mind, he was calm and felt unprecedented strength and confidence. Not the feigned one, when he tried to seem strong, but the real one, when you are really strong, stronger than Kage and anyone else and you know it, you accept it as a given. It seems that your friend's death has driven you mad. It's a pitiful sight. I don't like hitting women, so I'll give you a chance to escape. I'm not a woman, I'm a guy. Some kind of frail, and he's wearing a guy's dress. You yourself are small and frail. Small? Are you sure? What? You really got bigger? I just noticed it now. Before our eyes, the blonde guy grew even bigger and wider, now his suit was too small for him, because it was tied all over his body. He gave off a power that even Sakura and the Jonin could feel. What is it? Everyone had this question in their heads, but Zabuza was the first to voice it. Is this Naruto? Kakashi couldn't understand what he was feeling, because the fox's strength wasn't that strong, and he had no other answer, unless it was another shinobi. Then it was time to finish, otherwise it could be another enemy. He took out the scroll and almost cut himself to perform the summoning. This is getting dangerous, it's like there's a completely different person in front of me. The guy in the mask began to quickly move around the mirrors, throwing his needles at the enemy. What? My senbons didn't even scratch him? I'll show you that your pathetic speed won't help you. We'll see. The masked man galloped at full speed, shooting at the enemy, and then, sneaking up from behind, tried to make an instant kill by hitting the deadly point with a needle. Boom. The long-haired man flew away from the enemy and hit his own mirror hard. You thought I couldn't see your pathetic speed? I am the great and strongest Lord Naruto Uzumaki, the future Hokage of the village hidden in the leaves. And you are a weakling who couldn't even withstand my weak slap. A weak slap? You almost killed me. The mask went into its mirror. Hiding again? Well. I thought you were bragging that fire couldn't overcome your mirrors. That weakling's fire might indeed be that weak, but what about mine? The blonde pointed his index finger upwards, and it seemed like the sun was burning on it. My mirrors are melting. It can't be. All the water began to evaporate and even something like a wind began to blow away the hot air with fog around. Oh. The light of the sun. How nice to feel it. The blonde closed his eyes in pleasure. It suddenly got even hotter, and he grew even bigger. Is the sun filling him with power? Then it's too late to try to create more fog, but I can close the mirrors tighter, completely, so that the light doesn't penetrate, and then I attack with all my might. Ice dome. The walls of the prison froze again and became thicker, forming a solid dome, where the only source of light was a burning ball of fire. And now? Ice hell. Spikes began to grow from everywhere except the place where the brunette's body lay, trying to pierce Naruto. What? As a result, he found himself under a layer of ice, and in different places it was red, cutting through the guy and his suit. Why is his fire still burning? Crunch. Uzumaki's head easily broke the ice. You've ruined my suit even more. It looks like all you've achieved is cutting the top layer of my skin. Is that all? Then it's my turn to attack. I've already given you the opportunity to show everything you're capable of, so that you can see for yourself how weak you are. Bang! Naruto simply detonated his ball and the entire dome was torn to pieces. Only Sasuke, whom both combatants did not want to touch, was not harmed by either of them, if you do not count the airwave of the explosion. It was this explosion that made Kakashi's summoning technique and Momochi himself freeze in midair. The explosion finally dispelled the fog near Naruto, and the area where it dispersed reached all the ninja, including the girl and the old man. Everyone who did not see what was happening in the dome, including the bridge builder, stared at the mysterious enemy who revealed himself. No one could understand whose side he was on and what he wanted. You are Naruto, aren't you? Kakashi, are you still messing around with this Zabuza? Can't handle this on your own again? Naruto. You idiot, what happened to you? Where is Sasuke? The girl's eyes filled with tears, but she still held them back. She saw the body of her beloved at the blonde's feet. She was a ninja, which meant she couldn't go mourn him now, only when the mission was over. He was wounded, it seems he is dead. My opponent is probably dead too. Her face. That girl who said she was not a girl. Everyone started looking for the enemy and saw a guy who looked like a girl, whose mask had come off. He moved and seemed to slowly try to get up, but it was only with great pain. Haku managed to jump out of the mirror, and that was the only reason he was hit very lightly. Freak! You managed to defeat my partner, but it looks like he hit you pretty hard in turn. I'll finish you off. Okay, Kakashi, don't interfere, just like you Sakura, I want to give him at least a chance to hit me. The guy put his hands in his pants. Attack. Decided to provoke me? No, why, if you don't attack me, then I will attack you. The blonde began to walk towards the swordsman without showing any attempt to defend himself at all. Bastard. You'll regret it. I'll kill you, and then the rest. Zabuza used the technique again and the fog enveloped everything around. Kakashi wanted to stop Zabuza, but for some reason he couldn't. Naruto's tone and his power, which began to frighten him, stopped him. Even Zabuza, despite his bragging and rage, was tense himself, feeling the guy's ever-increasing strength, and therefore decided to finish everything quickly. Whoosh. Chomp. Impossible. A sudden attack from behind, which was supposed to decapitate the enemy, hit the blonde right in the neck with the decapitator, got stuck in the guy's neck without cutting even a centimeter. He was already as tall as Zabuza, and even bigger in the shoulders. His suit was completely torn and barely held on the owner, it was already rags and shreds. Is that all you can do? You are not worthy of this sword. Naruto raised his fist and clenched it so that his opponent could see the movement. Zabuza tried to jump back, even letting go of his sword to make it in time, but all his preparedness did not help him avoid the blow. Crunch. Bang. Smack. Bang. The fist barely even noticed the ice wall that had grown between Uzumaki and his enemies, which was much thicker than the previous ones, breaking through it and even melting it in places, which is why it cooled down to an acceptable temperature, and its fragments did not keep up with it. After which it hit the long-suffering Bishan and Haku, whom it drove into Zabuza's body, and then drove both of them into the wall of the bridge. And the wave of air from the impact and flight again gave visibility to the Konoha people. The sword that fell out of the guy's wound fell to the ground. Cough, almost simultaneously the partners let out. Zabuza took the blow on the bridge, and the guy on the fist, which made both of them unable to breathe, air could not pass into the lungs. If it weren't for that wall that slowed him down a little, then we would both be dead already. They thought at the same time again. He's a monster. A beast. We have to run. But after this blow, both of them could not move away, they still could not even catch their breath. On the other hand, Uzumaki's allies themselves did not understand anything. This was not how a Jinchuriki who had unleashed the power of Ebija should have behaved. This was not how the most talentless ninja in the class should have fought, it was Sasuke-kun who should have been in his place, not the other way around. It seems that one blow was not enough for you. But it seems that you are no longer fit for a second one. Ha ha ha. Bravo, bravo. You managed to defeat that supposed demon. Zabuza, you turned out to be a pathetic little devil. A fat man in sunglasses burst into the conversation. A whole army of bandits crowded behind him. "What are you doing here, Gato? I'm going to finish you all off so I don't have to pay and leave no witnesses. Go away, fatso. I feel disgusted even to beat you. You are not worthy of falling from my fists, just like your people, you are pathetic trash. You worthless piece of work. Boys. Bring me his head. He's only putting on a brave face, but in reality he's covered in blood. Kakashi, we have no more reason to fight, let us go." Momochi could no longer move normally. He already wanted to beg for mercy, because even running away with broken ribs would not work against a fresh and relatively whole Sharingan bearer, and his wounds were insignificant. "Okay, we already have enough problems. Kakashi. I'll deal with these too. This thing will suit my hand just fine, a great one-handed sword." The approaching mercenaries stopped smiling when the muscleman raised an excessively large sword with one hand. After which he cut the air with it a couple of times so that a whistle could be heard. "It's long past midday, so we need to get back in time for dinner, I'm hungry." "Why are you standing up?" The guy walked towards them, checking the sharpness of the blade in the meantime. The opponents retreated. Something told them that this enemy would send many of them to the next world, maybe even all of them. AAA. The bravest or most reckless ran towards the blonde. Whoosh. Click. Shush. Splash. The man, not the lightest of build, was cut across. The sword passed right through him, after which it hit the material of the bridge. The halves of the body fell on the bridge, and the man's blood drenched those standing behind him. "You'll definitely be perfect for me to test this piece of iron. It seems I'm not swinging it weakly enough yet. I need to practice." "Hey, where are you going?" No one wanted to die, because if you go in the front rows you'll definitely die. This demonstration was enough for everyone. The crowd quickly began to fade, rushing back to the ship. "Ah, there you are, Gato, I see you." The fat man was not an athlete, and his weight was a hindrance, and therefore he did not have time to leave and ended up behind everyone, because no one cared about him now, as long as they survived. Whoosh. Smack. Naruto did not run, but simply carefully threw the sword at the fat man, like a kunai, but even so, he immediately impaled 5 people, in whose bodies the sword got stuck. After the blonde man picked up his skewer and swung it clear of the bodies that were falling into the boat, everyone was finally able to stop worrying about the gang of enemies and start worrying about how easy it was for the guy to just commit his first mass murder. Naruto, are you okay?" Kakashi tried to look relaxed, as if he had the situation under complete control, but something told him that if Uzumaki decided to continue the battle with him, then his chances were not so great, because this guy no longer looked like a genin who was 12 years old. In full. The guy smiled and became like a lion with his mustache stripes. "I decided that I like this thing, perhaps now it is my trophy. You don't mind, do you? Am I right?" Naruto looked at his former enemies. It seemed to them that he was threatening them and had already decided everything. And therefore there was no point in bargaining. It was better to let them take it, but let them go. "Not at all, you earned it. It is yours. Its name is Kubikuribocho, Decapitator. It is one of the great swords of the mist. It is able to recover from damage due to the iron in the blood that comes into contact with it." Zabuza parted with the sword with pain, but he did not want such a thing to be called iron and not even know what kind of miracle they had in their hands. Sounds good, so even if I break it, it will recover? Excellent. After the assassins were able to move, they left the land of waves. The bridge was cleared of traces and pieces left after the battle. Sasuke was alive. With each hour Uzumaki became smaller and smaller, and in the evening, when the sunset came, he completely shrunk to his original size and could not even lift his sword. And in the morning, he could not wake up. "I couldn't wake Naruto, this." Sakura thought. "He's sleeping. She definitely won't bully him anymore. She's already had nightmares." The bridge builder almost got hit. "That's not necessary. I think his strength has put a lot of strain on his body. It seems he's spent a lot. When he wakes up, he'll probably be hungry, like after training." 3 days later, the blonde finally woke up. Ah. I slept so well and had such a dream. It was like we were attacked and we fought, and then I became strong and beat everyone up. Only at the end it got too bloody. The blonde pressed his hand to his mouth, he felt sick. Alas, but it was not a dream. Kakashi pointed his finger at the trophy near the wall. Sasuke and Sakura were silent. The guy couldn't believe Sakura's story, but if Kakashi himself confirmed it, then maybe it was true. What? You don't remember this? I remember, but then it was like a dream. It was like I didn't feel the same as usual. What happened to me? I'm not entirely sure myself. However, it seems you helped us a lot back then, so you can be proud of yourself, but I advise you not to lose control of yourself in the future. Your strength seems to have changed your character a lot. I understand, I don't think I could do that. Don't worry about it, otherwise we wouldn't be able to leave without a fight. And besides, this sword is yours now, and you'll have to carry it yourself. What? It's heavy. The guy tried to lift it, but he could barely tear off one side. Shadow clone technique. Together with the clones, the guy was able to lift it normally. The clones will help you carry it to the village. Consider it your training. And this is instead of a weight. I think that when you grow up, you will be able to handle it. But don't take it on simple missions until you can use it in combat. Okay. After the construction was completed, the entire 7th team went to Konoha, and the bridge was named Great Lion Bridge. Kakashi reported to the village about the anomaly with his ward, but the check revealed nothing. So until the power manifested itself again, it was forgotten for a while. == 2. Forest walk. == Naruto was in pain. He was hit hard and he was afraid. Zabuza was like a kitten next to a tiger, compared to this monster. Even Sasuke, whom he looked up to and whose level he aspired to, although he did not admit it even to himself, even this silent and cool guy was now terrified and did not even think about fighting, only running. The blonde's entire being screamed at him to run, but he didn't do it out of anger. He even stupidly rushed at the enemy and naturally lost. Here he is after the snake's blow, he hits a tree and then falls down, and the snake rushes to devour him. Bam! I'm not afraid of worms. A powerful blow almost killed the giant snake. After this blow, it lost its orientation in space. This guy. What happened to him? The long-haired man was surprised. The fear and anger disappeared from the guy's face, only unshakable confidence remained, and the power of his blow came from nowhere. Where did the power awaken in him? The gate? No, I feel something, but I can't understand it. As soon as he is taken out of the game, I need Sasuke, and he must pass this stage and the test from the sound team. The grass gen unfolded seals and drove the blonde into the tree with a powerful stream. The guy's face wrinkled from pain. Sasuke-kun, now it's your turn. The snake and its rider rushed towards the brunette. Bam. Are you the type to enjoy fighting weaklings? How would you feel about fighting someone stronger? The blonde suddenly appeared and stopped the snake flying towards his partner with one hand. His feet left a furrow in the wood. It seems that you are one of those who do not know when to retreat and run. Such people do not live to old age. If I die, it won't be at the hands of such a weakling. The blonde turned his head to his partners. Sasuke, Sakura, run to the tower, I'll get there when I get the scroll. The partners didn't want to run, abandoning their partner, but they didn't want to die either, and if their friend had dealt with that swordsman, then maybe he'd be okay here too? They decided to retreat, but not abandon their friend, to lie in ambush, ready to help, and for now, they would interfere and distract him with their defense. By the way, where's yours? All the same, when I'm done with you, I'll catch up with them. And the scroll? I swallowed it. Do you want it? Then you'll have to tear it out of me. Travavets licked his long tongue. Ho. That's what I'll do. Naruto took a kunai out of his pouch. It's a bit small, but it'll do better now. You're growing up right before our eyes. Are you from the Akimichi clan? I am the great Lord Uzumaki Naruto, the future Hokage of Konohagakure. What do they have to do with it? You don't even know that? What a fool you are, you don't even know anything about your allies, and yet you're from the same village. I like to fight when my opponent can surprise me. I already know the outcome of the battle, regardless of the opponent. What conceit! On your grave it should be written, he was too stupid and self-confident, do not repeat his mistakes, be good, shinobi. Pride has ruined many shinobi before you. Pride is my sin, but it seems you are subject to it too. I confess, that is true, but this is not empty boasting. Same with me. You wanted to play with us, didn't you? The only way to check who stuck their nose up in vain is to play a game, whoever survives is right. The guy started walking along the snake towards his opponent. The snake seemed to be getting hit under his steps. There was a trace from his steps, not only like from a very heavy guy, but also slightly scorched. Kushi'n's expected his opponent to attack as soon as he let him approach, but the other just put his hands in his pockets and leaned towards him. Now he was a couple of heads taller. Genin Grass was already starting to get annoyed by this self-confident look. Even with his strength and experience, it was hard to look into those eyes, as if you were not being taken seriously. And why don't you attack? I'll give you the right to strike first, otherwise it won't be interesting if I just knock you down the first time. And I don't like hitting women. The guy smiled very friendly and closed his eyes, after which he waved his hand at his face, inviting her to attack him. Hit him. Pooh. Kushi'n's did not refuse and hit the impudent mug with all his might. And that was your best punch? The blonde opened his eyes and stared at the hand that had hit him in the face with a hook. It had crashed into his face and didn't even make him move his head a millimeter. His opponent looked dumbfounded. Whoosh. Bang. Bang. Smack. Shash, the opponent jumped back and hissed in anger and pain. After the first blow, he began to strike again and again, but there was no effect, not even bruises. The long-haired one even hit the blonde on the balls, but they seemed to have become adamant. Is this one of the body-strengthening techniques? My hands felt like they were hitting steel. This is not the level of a genin. The force of my blows worked against me. I rather damaged my arms and legs, as if I hit a stone during training, and that was softer. And I'm not strong in such blows, here you need the Tsunade style or something else. And simple blows to pain points, even an elbow blow to the temple, did not give results. And now I, balk. KH. One moment and the guy from the grass was thrown into a tree. Smack. Mud? Mud clone? Smack. Bam. Naruto was stabbed in the back by a sword, the blade lengthened and smashed him into a tree. I'm not such a fool as to exchange blows with someone who is strong in taijutsu. I made a substitution with a clone and attacked while you were distracted, such a blow I would have felt. So we saw that you were only pretending to be strong. Now we are going to play hide and seek. The guy unstuck from the tree and turned around. The sword left a small wound, but was unable to widen it when turning, and simply jumped out. My Kusanagi didn't kill him, only wounded him? No problem. The poison has already started to work, he'll die soon. Can we deal with SAS, what? I won't let you. You can't leave me that easily, I'm holding you. Naruto grabbed the blade, not letting the enemy pull him into his snake. This idiot is trying to break Kusanagi? This blade is impossible, click. Impossible. What kind of monster is he? Before this, Uzumaki held the sword in his hand and pressed his finger on its tip, which did not want to break until he applied a little more force. After that, he began to break the blade with both hands, and it continued to lengthen and lengthen at almost the same speed that it was being broken. The grass genin did not want to be pulled towards himself, but he could not lift the guy and pull the blade out. And it's long, you can supply a whole forge with metal here. Gradually, the blonde began to drag the snakeling towards himself, and then his sword ran out. A giant hand grabbed his head so that he couldn't put the snake back, and he also couldn't lengthen his neck, because part of the hand held his lower jaw, and the other his neck. Whoosh. KKHSH. It was hard to talk with a snake in his throat, so the long-haired one only made incomprehensible sounds. His belly was cut. Smack. And then they stuck a hand in there and started searching inside him. GLKH. While this was going on, he still couldn't start saying anything, he just kept making some sounds. Found it. Naruto took out the scroll, which he then shook, throwing off the blood everywhere. After which he put it in his pouch. Uzumaki finally looked into his opponent's eyes and saw horror in them. And when his fist clenched and he pulled his hand back to strike, his opponent twitched even more. He had been struggling earlier, trying to get out, even took out a kunai and tried to stab the blonde, because he couldn't reach his face, and the shurikens in his face didn't even distract him, didn't even leave a scratch. Boom. A powerful blow knocked the victim far away, piercing several thick branches. Do you still want to continue? Since you survived, you can leave, what I need I already managed to get. Uzumaki watched as Kusobetsu rose with difficulty and seemed to be sick. Then his mouth opened and the same enemy burst out, but covered in mucus and completely intact. After which, he stood up and wiped himself with one hand, and put the other behind his back. You surprised me, perhaps it's time to put you in your place. And how will you do that? I think you have some kind of powerful technique in your hand. You are preparing it to attack, and now you are charming me. Then, I will not attack, but let you finish your technique. I will also prepare mine in response. Here he put out his palm and a miniature sun lit up on it. Kusobetsu tensed up again when the blonde leaned over him. Seal of the 5 elements. The long-haired man looked straight into Uzumaki's eyes, and when he saw how he grimaced and was surprised by his attack. It hit him in the solar plexus, which had acquired a seal, because the guy's clothes had long since torn. The brunette finally smiled. Exactly until the enemy again returned his face to that expression of disdain for the enemy. I want to see what you are. Bite. The snake's neck lengthened and he tasted Naruto. Ah. The long-haired man's mouth and lips were burned by the heat emanating from Uzumaki, which was almost the same as from his fireball. It's scorching hot. My teeth couldn't break through to put the damned seal, it just came out with the blood from the wound. And the seal of the 5 elements on him also burned. Did the Kusanagi poison burn in him too? Monster. Are you so desperate that you started biting? Or is this some kind of mating game? You're not my type. Get lost. Whoosh. The ball of flame blew away Kusobetsu, and he was lost in the foliage of the trees. Somewhere high above the training ground, this ball exploded, and this explosion was visible for many kilometers above the tree trunks. From the place where Travnik disappeared, the sun appeared. Uzumaki finally felt the sun on his skin. It removed the fatigue that appeared after that attack in the solar plexus, and he also realized that from the moment he took this form, he accurately felt the location of the sun in the sky, and he also wanted to feel its light. Sasuke. Sakura. Let's go, I want to get to the tower before dark so I can eat properly there. Naruto noticed his partners appearing. Together they went to the tower. The observers from the side of the Genin's partners from Kusa did not dare to join the fight, because they saw what this guy who had just beaten their boss was capable of. So they hurried to find him. Their leader could not have lost and died so easily. He had simply been carried away too far. By evening, their search was successful, though their master had found them after he had recently dealt with his former student, taking out his anger on her for the day's defeat. True, she had remained alive for the sake of his plan, which he could no longer cancel, but it was worth finding out more about that guy. Who he was and where his power came from. He had been hit hard, had to crawl out of his burnt body again with the skin change technique, but even so, he had spent a lot of chakra and needed rest. The red-haired girl fell to the ground, and behind her she could hear the roar of a bear. It happened a little later than the explosion over the forest, which happened a couple of hours after the sun had reached its zenith. Her partners were killed and eaten, and soon she would be too, because she had no strength to stand up, and she was too afraid to even crawl. Grah! The roar literally sounded above her, and she heard the beast swing its paw. Bang! Smack! It is not right for such a weak girl to undergo such trials. Where are your partners? Someone's voice sounded, and there was no more roar. She opened her eyes, which she had closed before death, and looked at her savior. It was a big guy, whom she did not recognize. He wasn't a genin, maybe he's a jonin? He looks like a lion. Suddenly, her eyes widened and her heart began to pound in fear. At that moment, her newly awakened power to sense chakra awakened, and she was horrified by the feeling that she was standing next to a chakra volcano that was about to erupt. "Don't be afraid. I won't hurt you. I can take you to the tower. Do you have a scroll?" Yes, her throat was dry, she couldn't continue speaking, her voice trembled with fear and tears, but she quickly began to look for the scroll that was entrusted to her, since she was always in the rear. With shaking hands, she extended it to the big guy. "Thank you, it won't be superfluous. So, will you come with us?" "With you?" The girl looked around and noticed a cute brunette on the tree, whose appearance pierced her heart, and a pink-haired girl. Against the background of his chakra, so close to me, I didn't feel those two. It seems they were together with that noisy blonde. He had the same mustache as. Is that him? That can't be, his chakra is completely different. Recognition appeared on the girl's face. Yes, he even still has those orange pants on. It's him. Did his clothes get torn or something? If he grew that big, then maybe. Why are you silent? Are you tongue-tied? No. I want to go to the tower with you, please take me with you. My name is Karen. Okay, then let's go. So they all set off together. On the way, they managed to get to know each other a little. Sasuke's appearance and character were increasingly winning the girl over, although he treated her with caution. And was silent and thoughtful. So why did you turn us back? We were almost at the tower. The guy in pajamas finally decided to ask the question that was tormenting him and his sister. I want to see what happened there. It seems there was someone strong there, I want to kill him. Here in the forest I can let loose. Our task is to pass the second stage, the sister spoke. There's still plenty of time. It will be better for us if we eliminate more competitors. There is someone very strong ahead, and he is very dangerous. Karen did not want to be killed, and so she warned everyone about the danger. Are you a censor? Sakura asked, although it was already clear. Yes, I have only just begun to master this direction, but him, nodding at Naruto. I sense him very well, and there is someone just as strong or even stronger ahead. Then I definitely just have to go there. Enough of this nonsense, Naruto. We were lucky enough that that guy was up to you, but what if it was him and he survived? Then do as you did last time, and I'll go. Idiot. This is what the girl with pink hair said when her partner disappeared in front. He quickly broke away from them. Will he be okay? Karen didn't want her savior to die. Although the idea of staying under the protection of Sasuke, who was certainly inferior to the blonde, but was still strong and handsome, was still spinning in her head. If only this Haruna would disappear too. Although, if she switches to Uzumaki, then it would be great, but for now, she looks like a competitor. If he loses, then we definitely shouldn't try to save him. The Uchiha, who had been silent and gloomy before, became even gloomier. He himself understood that he had saved them, but the power that had awakened in Naruto again made him angry. He wanted the same to fulfill his goal. So one of you was considered my equal? A huge guy landed in front of the Tsunade trio, with a loud bang. Who the hell are you? I am the great Lord Uzumaki Naruto, the future Hokage of Konohagakure. The boy took the same pose as in that class. After that, the faces of the older relatives reflected recognition and disbelief that this was the same person. His manner of speech, voice, the phrase itself, etc. changed, and this time the arrogance was not bravado, but a fact. I want to kill. I want to kill him. The youngest of the dogs had a smile on his face. And his face became like that of a crazy psycho. Damn it. Gaara doesn't seem like he's going to let him go. I want your scroll. 3 against 1 is not fair, and therefore I will give you a chance to surrender and leave in one piece, just give me your scrolls. And this one seems to have lost his sense of fear and common sense. There is no point in even trying to resolve everything peacefully. And Gaara will not calm down until he tastes his blood. Hee, there will be a lot of blood in it. Gaara became even more happy. He was happy. This sacrifice seemed suitable for his mother. No, you figure it out yourselves. Your partners are probably somewhere here. It would be better for them not to prepare a trap, but to run, maybe then they will survive. Pajama Man gave the last instruction, leaving the improvised arena. Sand burial. The sand completely enveloped the big guy. He only showed surprise on his face, but in fact, he didn't even move. What a fool, he didn't even think of screaming or trying to break free. The lady turned away so as not to see the execution. Sand funeral. After the red-haired man's cry, all the sand instantly fell into the sand prisoner. No one had the words to express their misunderstanding when it was discovered that the blonde was safe and sound. The damn sand is getting everywhere. The blonde himself was dissatisfied, because it was not very pleasant to be completely covered in sand. At this time, all the ladies who were watching this scene blushed red. You, little one, tore my pants, now you owe me for them. It's good that at least the bandage was not damaged. Uzumaki began to approach the dumbfounded opponent, who after these words froze and tried to repeat his trick. But the sand could not stop the opponent, and did not even slow down the blonde's leisurely pace. Gaara felt unusual, as if he began to be afraid, but he could not. His mother's strength would protect him. Now the giant was a considerable step away from him, he had already prepared his defense for his body and his sand was all gathered to stop the blow. Whoosh! Bang! Naruto's fist with great force fell on the appeared defense, which really weakened the blow that he delivered from above, but did not stop it. Gaara! The brother and sister stared in horror at the massacre, where their brother was smashed face down into the floor. They simultaneously took out their weapons and prepared to save him if necessary. They still believed that he was safe, but he still did not rise, only his sand protection on his body began to peel off. Did I hit him? No wonder he seemed so weak. Whoosh! A gust of wind hit the mighty body, but it crashed as if it were a rock. You decided to cool me with a breeze? Your fan is too big for you. Meg and Tamari's fan was taken away and they began to fan themselves with such force that it was not possible for her, with her element of wind. It became very windy around. Is he capable of such a hurricane with pure physical strength and speed? Here, the heat doesn't bother me. To Tamari's surprise, the fan was returned to her. And what are you doing, exactly? Uzumaki turned to Kankuro, who was attacking him from behind, trying to plug him with poisoned irons, but they bounced off the big guy's skin without leaving a scratch, as if they were blunt. When Tamari jumped back to a safe distance, the doll released a poisonous cloud from itself. But the guy calmly got out of it, and then with a wave threw the puppet into a tree, seriously damaging it, and also dispersing the cloud of gas. It's in the way. And now? Where is the scroll? Naruto. They might have multiple scrolls. Sakura's scream was heard, realizing that she didn't have to hide anymore. Where are the scrolls? Why there? Kankuro had no choice but to surrender. If they were released, they could try to find new ones, but the dead didn't need scrolls. Excellent. And now? You still owe me pants. The giant approached the hermit, who still hadn't come to his senses. What are you going to do with him? Sakura, who approached Uzumaki with her partners, asked a question common to everyone. This rag will do for me, instead of panties. You girls are completely flushed with embarrassment. And indeed, the guy quickly wrapped his crotch and now it looked like panties. We can go. The remaining duo of sandmen quickly checked their younger brother. He was alive, but unconscious. They had to drag him to a secluded place. Kankuro also carried the fragments of his weapon, which had to be urgently repaired, but he made it in time for the start of the preliminaries. And Gaara, upon awakening, at first could not believe what had happened, and then he wanted a rematch, but for now it was impossible. He believed that he would have another chance, he would definitely demonstrate his full strength next time. The scrolls were not a problem for them. The Trinity and one ballast reached the tower. Karen was able to enter the tower itself with the help of extra scrolls, but without her partners she could only wait in safety until she and the others could be released from the forest of death. But the 7th team had passed and were waiting for the qualifiers, which no one knew about yet. After nightfall, Uzumaki passed out, fortunately he was well fed in the tower. They were able to wake him up only on the day of the end of the second test, but he looked rumpled and not rested, but this did not stop him from defeating Kiba, although he was lucky there. And he also promised to beat up that arrogant Niji, who did that to Hinata. Those who observed him in the form of a giant and in this ordinary one could not get it into their heads that these two people were in fact one. Could he have a twin brother? Then that one was probably normal, and this one was crippled in the head and in everything. Commentary on 2. Forest Walk. Will Naruto survive in this work? I myself am still in doubt. The same goes for romance. If he survives, is it worth adding and changing something in canon couples? == 3. Introduction. == Commentary on 3. Introduction. I have a plot in my head, so I'll try to finish it. I decided that it will be non-canon. I made a decision that not everyone might approve of with the plot. For now, I'm still ready to read wishes regarding Naruto's fate, whether he will survive or not, and other things. It's not too late for me to try to change my mind. This chapter has a small mini prequel chapter inside. If there are missing warnings or anything else, please write, because I often forget. https://i.ytimg.com/6/u2atl3l9nig/moxresdefault.jpg. Naruto stood in the water and darkness. Huh? Where am I? He was still twitching from being thrown into the ravine, where he was about to crash, or survive using the power of the fox. Damn old man, he decided to kill me? The guy looked around. It looked like some kind of flooded tunnel. He went to look for the one who was supposedly sealed in him since his birth. Soon he felt a terrifying chakra. Despite his fear and apprehension, he did not turn and found himself in front of a huge gate. What? 0.5. New house. Naruto's birthday. A man in glasses and a suit crawled towards where he sensed its terrifying power. He was too afraid to go, and he didn't want to go there, but he had already looked around in another part and couldn't find a way out. And he didn't want to sit here all his life alone, in fear and uncertainty, and so this coward still found the courage to find out what was ahead. And so he glanced around the corner and immediately recoiled, covering his mouth so as not to squeal in fear. Don't hide, I can smell you, I can smell your fear. Come out. A loud voice paralyzed the not young man. He simply couldn't move. Thank you, but I'll sit here for now, please don't be offended. Even in that darkness, Yuzuri saw a huge fox behind the gate. You are not my captor. Who are you, pathetic little man? Me? My name is Escaner. And yours? They call me the nine-tailed demon fox, Kyubi, but Yuko. Nice to meet you. Ha ha ha. Pathetic man, you really should be proud, you were lucky enough to meet me and survive. Come to my cage, I want to look at you. Escaner obeyed and crawled further, but he swore to never get close to the bars, and so he stopped at a respectful distance from them. Bug, you remind me of them somehow. The color between red and yellow. But I'm too lazy to even crush such a bug, as well as to hate it. Since we're both locked in here, then perhaps you're my only interlocutor for now. Tell me, how did you end up here? The fox had never laughed so much. The story went on for a long time, but it sounded like the ravings of a madman. That alone was worth not killing the Joker. He didn't even try to convince the fox that he was telling the truth, and it seemed he already knew that no one would believe his tales, and so he wasn't offended at all. In response, the Biju shared part of his story. Of course, he did not tell his name to the unworthy, but he told the general information. Although he is a beast of chakra, his mind makes him higher than an animal, which means he suffers from the same vices as all intelligent beings, including he does not want to sit in prison and loneliness for eternity, although he can sense his brothers, but this is not it. After a long conversation, both silently thought about their own. Both of them had sad prospects, both of them were prisoners. The fox was useless to this man, he would not be able to break his seal, and the man did not want to take advantage of the fact that he was outside the seal to take the child's body, as the Bija suggested. Meanwhile, the sun hit little Naruto when the curtains in the room where he slept opened. The fox felt something. He opened his eye and looked at his new neighbor. Something was wrong with him. as if a different person was sitting there now. Were your stories really not nonsense? Nonsense? Ho ho. I told you about my past without exaggeration or distortion. You really are too arrogant in this form. Maybe you will come to me and show me that you are not only as great as you say in words? Great idea, sitting here is boring, and a fight is a great way to improve your communication, if only we had a drink. At first, the fox looked at the grown man with mocking arrogance, but as he approached, he realized that he would really come to him. As soon as he crossed the bars, the fox felt that Escaner's ever-increasing strength was indeed great, at the level of a Kage, although he was far from any Biju. Meanwhile, the red-haired one approached the fox to the distance of his paw and stood up. Even if the nine-tailed was much larger and looked down on the man seemed to be the opposite, looking at him as if he were a small animal with which he decided to play. He had never been looked at like that before, even his father looked at him with respect, as if he were his own child, and Madara, Mido, and Hashirama had never been so relaxed in front of him, and they looked at him with superiority, but not like a little fox. If before this Bija did not know whether to play with a person or to kill him, now he will play with him, put him in his place, and then make him his pet. Why are you looking at me? Attack. Escaner was tired of playing staring games. After his words, the fox bared his teeth and folded his hand to flick it, bringing it to the bug. Even with a height of over 3 meters, the man was smaller than one finger of the Biju. Bang. Bam. Escaner was thrown back from the flick, thrown into the gate, into which he crashed and sank. Hee hee. It seems that this is too much for you. Or do you want more? Ha ha ha, Escaner stood up and smiled. I remembered one game, I played it with one demon. I liked it, in fact I play it all the time. The gist is that everyone strikes, whoever strikes last wins. I think that since you don't take me seriously, I should show who is higher in the pyramid of power. Fox's smile began to fade because his opponent, who had already torn his clothes during the transformation and enlargement, expanded even more in muscles and even began to glow, and fire began to run around him. The zenith was approaching in the shinobi world. Right now his chakra is like that of a Biju, just as powerful, and there is just as much of it. Now Kurama was unhappy, he was angry, and he was no longer confident that he was in control of the situation. My turn. Bang. Bang. After these words, the man instantly appeared at the side of the fox's jaw and slammed his fist into it. The fox was thrown back a little, he lay on the floor, and some of his teeth flew out of his mouth. Bang. The redhead landed on his feet. Fa, the fox spat out his teeth. Now his previously not so powerful Yaki went berserk, but it did not affect the man at all, as did the chakra, which acquired the properties of a powerful poison and acid. The fox did not want to play anymore. Thud. With all his might, the Bija hit the impudent fellow, slamming him into the floor, which withstood the blow. Don't get carried away. I am the strongest of the tailed beasts. HM? Grr. The fox didn't feel the blow right away, but his paw burned where it had been. He looked at his prostrate opponent, who was face down on the floor, his arms and legs spread out at an angle of about 45 degrees. He didn't seem completely crushed, more like he was knocked out. But then he slowly moved and began to get up. There was no longer any arrogance on his face, as if towards his pet, he was smiling and looked pleased that finally there was someone to fight with, someone who did not need to be pitted. In Konoha, the sun was at its zenith, and Naruto was just being held in his arms under the sun. You deserve to be second, after me. The fox felt that this monster was indeed stronger than him in every way. Even with his other half, he wasn't sure he could match it, but he couldn't just admit defeat. Thud. Crash. The fox's punch connected with Escaner's fist, and the impact shattered the Biju's arm. Arg. Although he had neither flesh nor blood, but their likeness and organs from chakra were there. Soon he would restore everything, but now it hurt, especially since there was not only physical damage, but also a burn. Thud. Thud. Escaner pushed back again and slammed his fist into Fox's chest as he stared at his paw. His punch knocked the Biju off and into the cage on the other side. Fox was no longer a fighter, his chest caved in and he couldn't continue. After that moment, these two really became closer, because they could respect each other for their strength, especially since neither of them wanted the other's strength. Although Fox reacted to the night form with irritation and did not let him near himself, and even then Escanor himself would not want to be near this monster. Fox also tried to persuade Escanor to release him, his strength should be enough from that side, but he refused in both forms, because he did not want to harm the child, although he felt sorry for the prisoner. And then one day, Fox felt his Jinchuriki was in such a state that his power began to flow towards him. I feel someone's feelings. Fear and pain, hatred and madness. Escanor, you too? It's that kid. He looks like he's in trouble. It looks like this could be the end for him. I'll share my power so he can survive, and if he's lucky, I can control him and make him open the cage. No, that won't do, I'll share my power with him myself. Don't you dare. We've already talked about this, it's not his fault that you're in a cage. As long as you have power, you'll always be hunted. If you want to be free, you have to stop thinking that you can handle everything alone. You've already been shown that there are shinobi stronger than you. Your only chance for freedom is to find those with whom you can negotiate and unite. Even I had friends who accepted me and helped me. Let's try to look at him first, before you decide that he's guilty. Grr. The fox did not answer, because this ram was more stubborn than him in this form. He should not compare himself and call himself a lion. Let him do what he wants. However, he decided to share the information. When someone shares chakra, if it has a color, it tries to remake the new owner for itself. And it can also be colored by your emotions, so this boy will be as proud an idiot as you. Twice Escanor's power came out, and this time Naruto himself appeared to them. What? The blonde was dumbfounded. He was expecting the fox who lives here, but what he didn't expect was that there would be a man lying on his face. There you are. Come here, boy. Closer, click. Giant claws tried to break through to the child. Wow. The guy jumped back a couple of meters in fear. Arr. Let me rip you apart. Calm down, Hubie. The man who had never left the fox's face finally opened his eyes. Splash. After which he jumped into the water. And who are you? How do you talk to your elders, boy? And before asking someone else's name, you should introduce yourself first. The only excuse you have is that your parents can't teach you that because of him. Escanor pointed his thumb behind him. What? You killed them? The guy quickly went from incomprehension to anger and rage. Yes, I'm glad that I was able to do at least this, before sealing. I could have guessed. Don't be mad at him, kid, your parents paid him back in full for this, by locking him in this very cage. It was he who attacked our village. It was you, people, who first attacked me and subdued me. That's it. Enough. The red-haired man's powerful voice made everyone shut up. You asked who I am? I am the great Lord Escanor. One of the 7 deadly sins, the lion sin, pride. The Lord of the Sun, sun-faced. The strongest, the only one. Come here at night and see how pathetic he is then. The fox could not help but do something bad to his probably even friend, because so many years together did not pass without a trace. You already know me, kid, and I know your name, but you can introduce yourself to him. I can do that too. I am Uzumaki Naruto. The boastful, unpredictable, and loud ninja number 1. The future Hokage of Konoha. Escanor, it seems you have found a worthy successor. He also has an inflated ego, an ideal student for you. The fox rubbed his muzzle, he couldn't reach the blonde anyway. Really? Huh? What? Naruto's mouth dropped open as the big guy squeezed through the bars and walked up to him. After that, he leaned over him, looking at him carefully. Did those I towered over feel the same? It's somehow uncomfortable and oppressive just by its appearance. It's much bigger than that perverted hermit, and I don't really want to joke about it. Although. Harem technique. Poof. Who? Escanor looked in surprise at the smoke that formed around him. When he waited for it to dissipate, a bunch of beauties pounced on him with squeals and screams that were supposed to drive men crazy. Kid, you know how to surprise. Never before have I been attacked like that. I even felt pleased by the attention of so many beauties at once, every man's dream. Even Gauther never thought of such a thing. I think I admit, you passed. You are worthy of your title. I'm not talking about the future Hokage, although who knows, but about that first one. Damn it, it didn't work? But how? It even worked on the third old man and that Erosanin. I was pleased by such attention from beauties, but what are they to me when the one I still love is not available to me and has not responded to my feelings? A sad smile appeared on the hero's face. Sorry. I didn't mean to. I'm also in love with one girl. She started to treat me better recently, but she loves someone else. The blonde lowered his head and fell silent. Here, when he didn't have to pretend to be someone else, he could admit what he couldn't admit there. This man seemed to understand him well. Splash. The redhead's hand lay lightly on his head and stroked it. There is no need to apologize. Even with all my power, she could not truly love me. Although Merlin did not love me, and I was never able to win her heart, she was my son, which I protected, as well as my comrades. Yes, I am the same, I will protect those who are dear to me. They will become my son. Now the sadness and tears flew off the blonde, like recently from his new friend and mentor. Ah! I remembered. I'm falling into the abyss a little here. I need strength to save myself. Fox, give me your chakra, since you live here. Like then. I never gave you my chakra, the fox finally spoke again, for he had been remembered. What? It was him. Ask him, his chakra is squeezing out my attempts to share my chakra with you. So it was you? Your chakra? Yes. I am ready to help you. Come again when you are not in any danger. We will have something to talk about. I will tell you about my power and teach you how to use it, although as QB said, you will understand how to use it intuitively, but it is better not to rely only on intuitive understanding. Escaner's finger lit up and poked at Naruto. It was as if warmth and heat from the sun flowed into him. Right now you are not ready for all my power, so try not to exhaust yourself using it. Poof. A muffled sound of falling could be heard from the bottom of the gorge. It seems I was wrong about the guy. Too bad, Jiraiya closed his eyes. From here, it was impossible to see how the guy crashed. His soul became sad, and his face became gloomy and sad, but he knew what he was risking and what he was going to. The third one will be unhappy. Maybe I should quietly leave until he calms down? Forgive Minato, Kushina, I could not have raised such a talentless guy. I'll go have a drink and remember him, whoosh. Boom. The white-haired man only turned away from the gorge when he heard the sound of the wind and then the fall behind him, and when he turned around. Who are you going to remember, Jiraiya? I heard your last words. The Sanin's eyes widened at the sight of the boy. This exceeded all his expectations and Kakashi's stories. He's huge. According to Kakashi, he should be smaller, not only in height but also in the shoulders. G immediately made a stupid face when he realized that a conflict could arise and he could get into trouble. He had a feeling that what Tsunade couldn't do, this big guy would finish. Sorry, I thought you got hurt. You're not mad at me? Understand, I couldn't teach you to use your power any other way, and there was no time left. You dared to doubt that I could handle this? In this form, the guy's brain really does switch off even more than usual. The old man shook his head. No, what are you saying? I just didn't see you land. Maybe you should try summoning a toad now? Summoning technique. The giant bit his finger and put his hand above the ground. A toad appeared in a cloud of smoke. It seems I overdid it. Uzumaki grabbed his chin with his fingers and leaned closer to the toad. He even had to squat down. The same one was scared and tried not to move. It seemed she didn't understand where she was. Before there were tadpoles, and here is a really old toad. Idiot. You don't even understand who you've summoned. How did you do that? Even I can't summon him without a lot of preparation. It would have been better if he'd summoned Gamabunta. G grabbed his head, because this guy had simply amazed him with what he'd just done. It was about an hour after Zenith. Now the Sannin understood the commander of the 7th team. You wouldn't call a guy an idiot who could feel such power even when he was in his normal form, and then he'd suddenly decide to remember it. Even Lisu was smart enough not to get into trouble. You don't even understand who you've summoned. Hello, respected teacher Fukasaku, forgive my careless student for stupidly summoning you. Now, with all sincere respect, the white-haired man addressed the toad, because she deserved it. Huh? The toad with hair finally died. I was so scared, feeling the monster next to me, that I instinctively froze. After which the Sannin's teacher finally looked at the student. He tried to move slowly so as not to attract the boy's attention. Little Jiraiya, let's go and talk to you alone. The white-haired man silently held out his hand to the teacher, and the latter climbed up his shoulder. So they went to where they would not be heard. What scared you so much, teacher? Jiraiya became serious and collected. For starters, you're not in Sun mode, and I always feel Sun chakra. The guy is using it to the fullest now. It can't be. The new news surprised the shinobi, who had seen a lot. I can't believe it myself. This isn't the Sun mod we use, something's wrong with it. And his chakra feels like the sun, all made of fire, it burns my sensory abilities. And this Sun chakra seems to be tuned to the sun. And also, there's such a surge of power in him, as if he opened several gates at once. Then that explains the changes in him. Such a surge in power, and he pays for it by going to sleep afterwards. And the burning from the chakra. The nine-tailed chakra has always been poisonous and burning, and he is its Jinchuriki. Jinchuriki? As we speak, I noticed something. He's weakening. His strength is gradually waning. Fukasaku thought. Kakashi said that every time he returned to normal with the onset of night. Maybe this is some kind of technology tied to sunlight? Maybe. But I've never heard of such a thing before, neither from Kushina nor from Mito. We need to ask him some questions, maybe then it will become clearer. By the way, teacher, what else scared you so much about him? It wasn't just his use of Sun chakra? He became so much stronger? You were always a bad censor until you used Sun mod. I would say that now he has chakra like Kage. The white-haired man was prepared for this, although not completely, but he held back his new surprise. For someone who was able to resist Orochimaru, even if he wasn't serious and held back, this is acceptable. Then the toad left him, and the Sannin himself began to study his student and ask questions. He in turn told what he knew. Jiraiya had never heard of anyone like Escanor before, but he did not take it as the fox's cunning, because this power was not at all like that. At night, he again tried to force Naruto to take the form, but he was still unable, and even after simply being in it, he was exhausted. As after a strong training. You old pervert, are you going to throw me there again? Do you know another way? No. But don't you dare push me. I'll do it myself, don't let me down. Uzumaki was there again, inside his seal. Here he was already at the fox's cage. Huh? Are you looking for him? Look over there, in the corner. The fox scared the guy with his loud voice, but he listened to his advice. And who are you? Forgive me, Naruto, it would have been better for me not to show up here. The mustachioed man almost burst into tears and, sitting in a guilty pose, lowered his head even lower, trying to pull his head into his shoulders. Wait a minute. What? Are you my teacher? What happened to you? This is how I am when the sun goes down. I'm sorry, I disappointed you. Calm down, everything is fine. Just don't cry, please. You remind me of Hinata right now, with your shyness. I'll try to explain everything. My power grows with the sunrise, at its zenith it's at its limit, and by sunset I'm weaker. At night I can only use a small part of it. At night, you'd better rely on me, the fox spoke again. Without Escanor's second form he felt dominant, taking revenge on this coward. My strength, of course, will not be immediate, but gradually it will become more and more as it is used. With the appearance of the fourth tail, at night my strength will be higher than what you can get from him, and his form will only give you strength for a couple of minutes at most. And you won't be able to use both at the same time, even separately. Our powers will seriously cripple your weak body, and together you will simply die. I don't need your power. Teacher, you wanted to teach me. Yes, you're right. I will take that form, but before that I have to tell you something. The story turned out to be long, and Fox constantly butted into the conversation, but the bespectacled man told the basics about his strength and techniques. Later Naruto told his second teacher about it, although he was considered as such much less than Escanor, and he was Hokage, and from him several more people learned about it, but it did not reach those who should not know and remained within a narrow circle of people. The understanding that no one should know about such a weakness was obvious, as was the fact that sooner or later it would be found one way or another, and therefore Uzumaki could not simply use his power, although it was training for his body, which not only became stronger, but also became accustomed to this form. Therefore, it was decided to teach Uzumaki and train him so that he could fight with his own strength, and also learn to master the power of the Kyuubi. However, he was still supposed to be taught by Jiraiya, who had somehow lost his teaching talents, which made his students great shinobi. He also lost his love and care for children, for which his students loved him, although he could still win the heart of one orphan who would spend a lot of time with him. And in general, he now taught somehow strangely and completely incomprehensibly. But this is not yet the future, because soon there will be the third stage of the Chunin exam. ===============4 Neji vs Naruto ========================================================================================================================Naruto gave it his all, his desire to win and tenacity were not broken by the fact that his opponent did not even receive a blow. He listened to Neji's story and was moved by it, but he did not want to retreat. The spectators saw this fight differently. Some considered Uzumaki a loser who was good for nothing, while others were impressed by his spirit, but they saw that he could not win. I must. Teacher, give me strength. Concentrating with all his might, despite the pain and fatigue, he continued to try to summon the power hidden within him. He didn't care that his performance looked pathetic, that his opponent looked at him as a worthless person, there was only the goal to prove that he was not like that. And yet, what's wrong with him? Where is his power? Many viewers, among those who knew the second hypostasis of the blonde, had a question like this. It was reported that he is the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi and has even mastered its power. So why is he so weak? Is this some kind of plan? To hide the real one? And here you are again, Naruto. Escanor was again lying on the fox's face, who did not even try to move. And the giant himself did not move, did not open his eyes at the arrival of the student. Yes. I need strength to prove that I am not a weakling. That I can change my fate. Uzumaki habitually shouted and clenched his fists. You're so stupid and not mature at all. Escanor's answer surprised not only Naruto, but also the fox, who was trying to pretend he wasn't interested. What? Uzumaki didn't understand why his mentor suddenly told him that. Right now you are weak. By coming here, using borrowed power, you have proven that you yourself are weak, you are not ready for battle, not ready for victory. Even having defeated the enemy, you have already lost. Escanor abruptly jumped off Kyuubi's muzzle and approached the blonde. But I'll give him a beating. With your strength, even with his strength. The blonde's finger poked at the beast. He didn't care how, but he had to. It's not you who'll beat him up, it's not you at all. It's hard for me to talk about it and admit it in this form, but not talking about it will be even worse. The giant really didn't look happy with the conversation. What to talk about? Do you think I've never lost? Well, in that second form you probably lost. Wrong. Even in my current form I was losing, but in that form I was so brave that I amazed those who were stronger than me with my courage. It can't be. Indeed, the image the child had drawn for himself refused to accept such a thing. It was so. Like you, I was weak and could not change it. Over the years, I became wiser and learned to accept reality. Just as I could not win her heart, so I cannot change the established order. The sun will rise and set, and my strength will not always be with me. The weak lose, the strong win. I don't understand why you don't just give me strength. I need it now. Why? What's the point of all this talk? Because you are going to take the easy way to victory, to take it for yourself. Learn to separate your victories from the victories of someone else's strength, your victory from the stupidity or weakness, the mistake of your opponent. Unlike me, you have the opportunity to become strong yourself. However, you are wasting all your potential. My friends and I did the same, we considered ourselves the strongest, we even were. But there comes a time when you have to pay for everything, including my strength. Pay? Jiraiya told you, as I did, that you pay for this power by putting your body under enormous strain, which it is not prepared for. That is how I died, at 40 years old. I could not change it, it was my choice, but you can become stronger, reach your own limit. Don't waste your time. But I train. I trained a lot, but I never succeeded, I spent a lot of time on it. How often did you train after you graduated from the academy? Didn't you tell me how hard you worked when you were learning to walk on trees? And then all this month you spent learning to summon toads, although it seems like it was in vain, are you even ready to use it now? The only useful thing you learned was to call us for help. And I had to learn to control my power, to endure defeat and pain, which I did for many years. So you won't give me power? I will, but I will not give it to you just like that, so that you imagine that your efforts are enough. You yourself told me about your world, as did he. Now, in that arena, you risk only your reputation and victory, but when the time comes, you will risk something greater, the most precious to you, not only your own life, but also someone else's. Uzumaki wanted to say a lot of things, but suddenly stopped. His brain started working, remembering that bridge, what happened there. I see that you have started thinking about something, it seems not even about stupid things. Don't rush to answer. Everything depends on your words now. Learn to humble your pride, take control of your sin. To calm his pride and other hurricane of feelings for such a hot and unrestrained guy like Naruto is a task that some consider impossible for him. However, some believed in him, and therefore started this conversation, because previously the situation was not suitable for such conversations, because his life was at stake there, but now no, only victory. Not only Escaner was silent, but also Lise, who understood what his friend was talking about. He also became interested in what this little upstart would answer, because he was probably the same as other people. If he was not given power in one place, then he would definitely look for it in another, he would do anything for it. I know what I have to do, teacher. Uzumaki said this with clenched fists and looking at the floor, so that it was almost inaudible, he himself was tense to the limit. What? Escaner finally hovered over the guy and brought his ear to him, sticking his fingers out. I didn't hear, you spoke very quietly. Where is that fuse of yours? I'm saying that I understand you. I know what I have to do. Naruto deliberately shouted as loud as he could right into the ear, since they were making fun of him, then he would do the same in response. That's determination. Escaner scratched the inside of his ear. Your throat is really loud. I'll trust you, don't disappoint me. Receive my power and don't let me down. He taught me how to spy on what's going on with you there, so I'll know everything. Are you following me? Sometimes. Today, for example, it was not at all unnecessary, but the rest of the time no, I should respect your personal life, right? Phew. It's not as bad as I thought. Now it's time for you to go back. Another poke and Uzumaki disappears from the seal space. Do you think he will live up to your expectations? I believe in him, as in you, as in my other friends. We'll see. The fox turned away from the man, as it was difficult for him to maintain his usual expression. The words about believing in him meant that he believed that he would be able to forgive his jailer and all those who saw him as a great source of chakra. Naruto smiled, but Niji and all the spectators had to be surprised by the transformation of the blonde, who had grown so much. Fortunately, since that training session of falling into the abyss, he had not used the transformation until this day, but he had managed to draw conclusions and prepare. After another torn jumpsuit, he stopped buying those, because they tear, and therefore began to buy stretchable shorts of a large size, dark color. He also made a special order for a belt and a buckle, like the teachers. He also began to wear a mesh on his body and a jacket, like the teachers. When he changed his appearance, he could also change his suit. When he began to grow, he took off his top and the spectators saw his back. Did he get a tattoo? Many of those who knew Naruto were surprised by this. Before that, many had noted his new style, but it did not interest them, except that the things were big for Uzumaki, which everyone saw, but in this form the clothes were just right. The shorts were still not tight, leaving room for expansion, otherwise he did not want to walk naked because in such a form, although he had no embarrassment, but after that he was ashamed to look into the eyes of that blonde and Sakura. The audience still had many questions, logical from their point of view and knowledge. I'm sorry, Niji, that you had to wait so long. Thank you for giving me time to prepare. Shall we continue? Uzumaki stopped smiling. Niji silently took a stance and prepared to give it his all. His Byakugan saw the enemy's strength, whose chakra seemed to have stopped flowing only through the chakra channels and became part of the whole body. Stomp stomp stomp. The blonde walked slowly, as if he was taking a stroll. 8 trigrams, 128 heavenly strikes. The blows were delivered in one almost indistinguishable movement, but to the surprise of those who knew about the Hyuga style, the attack had no effect. The panicking little eye still did not lose his head and put more chakra into other blows that he dealt to the blonde, who did not even think of defending himself. Grimaces of pain sometimes passed across his face, which indicated that the efforts were not in vain. Having tried all the methods of delivering blows of his clan, from blows to internal organs to blows to tenketsu, Niji realized that his efforts were of no use. When the long-haired man froze in thought, the opponent quickly, so that it was no longer possible to dodge, threw his hand in his direction. The genius of the white-eyed was forced to use heavenly rotation. Whoosh! The hand even bounced off the dome, which the brunette even took for success, but then even faster and harder dug into the defensive technique. Whoosh! A strong hand passed the defense and grabbed Niji by the shoulder, not letting him break free. Uzumaki did not show anything on his face except determination and concentration. He raised his hand above his head with an open palm, and Niji, as if he was crazy, tried to break free from the grip. He realized that now his life would end. If he could not, then he would spit on everything and give up. The judge was also tense, since he did not need anyone to be killed here in front of everyone. Judge. I surrender. The winner is Hyuga Niji. What? The entire stadium couldn't comprehend what had happened, as could the winner himself, whom the loser took by the hand and shook. Shoo, Hyuga hissed. Oh, I'm sorry, Niji, I think I miscalculated my strength. Uzumaki let go of his hand, which the long-haired man began to rub. I'm sorry. I just wanted to shake your hand. You deserved to win, and I had no right to take it away from you. If it weren't for this strength of mine, I would have lost. I understood this myself, but I didn't want to admit it. I don't want to defeat you with someone else's strength. I will become stronger and beat you myself, with my own strength. What the hell are you talking about? I believe that I can change my destiny and write it myself. I choose how I will achieve this. You did not receive your power because you were born this way. You trained, studied, and developed, while I was busy with nonsense instead of training. I did not deserve this victory. Uzumaki said this without any pleasure on his face. I cannot forgive you for Hinata, but I myself must prove my point. This must be my victory, with my strength. You and I have our own seals that determine our destiny, but they cannot take our choice away from us. I will choose myself, whether I will fight or follow fate, along the path that it showed me. I will not refuse the powers that I was lucky to receive, but I will train to be strong myself, without them. You helped me understand this, I am grateful to you. And now I understand Lee. A weak friendly poke almost knocked Niji down, but he stood firm. Make sure you don't lose in the next fights. Niji was speechless. He now had something to think about, and when his uncle talked to him, he had to think a lot, and therefore he kept his eyes half closed during the subsequent fights. But Naruto, in his form, sat down to watch the sequel and root for his friends, who bombarded him with questions about why and for what reason, but the answer was unclear to them. Because I decided so. And in his seal, the fox lost a bet to one arrogant and at that moment smiling, mustachioed man. While Naruto was watching the further exam, he did not forget to eat and drink, because hunger and thirst increased in this form, which made him even more related to Akimichi. This was already noticed by many of those who were nearby and knew about this clan. Commentary on 4. Neji vs Naruto. https://www.itl.cat/pic/10102811_7-deadly-sins-escaner-wallpaper.jpg. Title of part number 2, 4, Defeat. == 5. A Little War. == Feathers? The peak and most intense moment of Sasuke and Gaara's battle was interrupted by a genjutsu, which put many of the spectators to sleep. Ok. BRMML. Naruto yawned, then shook his head, driving away the drowsiness. The technique couldn't get to him, even if he didn't know how to resist it. Is everyone asleep? Uzumaki looked around and saw the battles between Konoha shinobi and the outsiders begin. Bang! An explosion at the place where the Kage were sitting caught his attention. Old Man Third was dragged to the roof, and the Kazekage remained on the balcony, looking straight at him. Naruto immediately jumped up and jumped into the arena where Gaara had just been taken by his relatives, and in this area he was far enough away from civilians and could fight without harming his allies. Kakashi tried to shout something to him, but he was occupied by enemy shinobi. Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. You defeated Gaara, he wanted to kill you personally, but I can't risk it, so I'll deal with you myself while Orochimaru is busy with your Hokage. I am Raza, the 4th Kazekage of Tsunade. Raza tried to immediately demoralize the enemy and everyone who would try to challenge him, but his words had no effect on the blonde at all, as if he didn't understand what kind of monstrous opponent he had gotten. When Neji and I fought, the sun's zenith had already passed an hour ago, plus there was still about an hour left until that moment. With each passing minute, I feel myself getting weaker. I shouldn't slow down, time is against me now. I need to hurry. He jumped straight at the enemy, but in flight he was knocked down by golden sand, which, like a waterfall, began to bury him under a mountain of sand, on which the Kazekage himself eventually landed. As a result, the entire arena was filled with sand a couple of meters deep, and in the place where Uzumaki was, there was an even larger mountain that buried him below. Kakashi and the Konoha people were angry at such a massacre, but they could not help. The Hokage and Orochimaru also saw it. One was upset, like Kakashi, and the second was only happy. What a presumptuous fool you are. I am not the weaklings you could defeat with brute force. And now from here I can attack everyone, whoosh. The blonde's hand came out of the sand, and then a moment later he appeared completely, lifting his opponent in his hand. The sand did not fall from him, but flowed, melted by his heat, and the place where Raza was grabbed, burned. What? He is intact? Bang. Bang. Boom. Boom. Bang. The giant slammed Raza into the not at all soft golden sand several times, leaving craters in it, after which he looked at him again for a second, assessing his condition and slammed him into the sand a couple of times, leaving his back sticking out. Pathetic Kazekage, the blonde threw behind him, where his enemy could only wheeze and groan as he walked to a more important place of battle, to which he then jumped. Now Raza was no longer a danger to anyone until he healed from the broken bones and all the injuries and damage he had received. The battle of Kage against Genin ended in a way that no one could have expected. Everyone froze in the inability to quickly comprehend what had happened. The battle in the arena stopped for everyone who saw what had happened at the battle site. It had only been a few seconds since the Kazekage had been defeated and the Konoha people had regained their spirits, while the Tsunade people were demoralized and didn't know what to do now. Their deputy Kazekage had to make a quick decision, because now they would definitely be crushed. Even if Orochimaru could kill the third and this one, they should save their forces and their village chief. This man was not to be envied, because now his decision would determine everything. He would retreat and they would call him weak, and if he didn't, he could only increase the number of victims and losses, which could be a disaster for Tsunade. Considering that even their Jinchuriki was incapacitated. Retreat. Repel the Kazekage and retreat. We're stopping the battle and will try to resolve this peacefully, let us go. His team had determined everything, and they began to pass it on so that everyone could retreat while the Konoha people were still busy. The Konoha people, although they wanted to intercept them all, still had sound shinobi here, and they had not yet left the battle, which meant they would have to let the Sandmen go. The only good thing was that even so, things had become much easier for them. Later, the Tsunade and Konoha shinobi agreed to keep quiet about this incident and about that whole day in general, so as not to undermine the authority of the former, and also not to highlight one blonde guy too much. Only experienced ninjas who knew how to keep their mouths shut saw this fight. And the sound shinobi, of those who saw it and survived, also didn't talk much about that day. Orochimaru had wanted to simply kill his old teacher and do it his way, but things had gone wrong from the start. He had let the third watch as the Kazekage crushed his village's weapons right before his eyes, but things had gone horribly wrong. And now this big guy had approached his five-sided barrier, which was being held by his personal bodyguards and future vessel. You were lucky that Raza underestimated you and relaxed, exposing himself, but I took precautions. You will not overcome this barrier. You will watch as I kill your Hokage right before your eyes, just like the rest of the shinobi of your village on the other side who are standing near you. I won't believe it until I check it. Uzumaki approached one of the shinobi, supporting the barrier. He was a fat man who looked at him with a smile, as if he was sure that nothing was threatening him. KHSH. Ah! Naruto's hand pressed sharply on the barrier, which sagged under his pressure and seemed to stretch over his hand, with which he simply grabbed the fat man's head. He received a strong burn from contact with his own barrier, after which, due to the pain, his concentration was broken and the barrier fell, to everyone's surprise. Once again, everyone could not take their eyes off the culprit of the event, who lifted the fat man. This fat man continued to scream, but from anger and madness, and then began to transform and began to break free more actively. You squeal like a pig, very loudly. Crunch. Splash. Uzumaki clenched his hand, crushing the shinobi's head. A crunch was heard from his fist, and then the remains of the head flew out. Smack. When he unclenched his fist, the body fell onto the roof they were all standing on, and the blonde himself turned his gaze to the remaining opponents. Boom. The third was the first to come to his senses and hit his former student, breaking free from his grip, not allowing him to injure himself with a kunai held to his throat, after which he threw off his suit, remaining only in combat gear. Orochimaru and his henchmen also came to their senses and gathered themselves. All four of the Sound Five immediately transformed and prepared for battle, as they were already surrounded by shinobi who had freed themselves from the battle with the Tsunates. Boom. The six-armed man managed to see how the giant suddenly appeared in front of him and his fist was rushing at him. He even began to jump back and put all his limbs to protect himself. He began to secrete his strongest web. This did not save him. If earlier Uzumaki in this form acted carefully and restrained himself, now on the contrary, he acted at the limit of his strength. The body of this opponent flew far away and everything was broken, and he himself was dead when they found him. Shoo, shoo, Naruto was breathing heavily. However, he tried not to show it, but to take a break. The spider flew far away. What kind of pale worm are you that you dared to attack our village and our Hokage? Naruto, it's Orochimaru, he's the one who attacked your team in the Forest of Death. Be careful. Together, we can. No, old man, don't interfere. I'll deal with them myself. While I still have the strength, I'd better do everything myself, otherwise there will be a lot of casualties. Don't worry, we'll deal with him. A horned guy with a second head shouted. Ah. This time, it wasn't just one person shouting, but two. This shinobi tried to touch Uzumaki with his hand, but got burned. Bang. Then a blonde guy's foot fell on him and ended his life. Idiots, Orochimaru almost hissed. He was angry that he was surrounded now. For now, everyone was not attacking them on the orders of the Hokage, who had signaled everyone not to interfere. The technique of penetrating his body did not work, as did all the techniques of contact with his skin. His chakra was burning close by. Impure reincarnation technique. Whoosh. Whoosh. As soon as the pale-faced one used the summoning of his trump card, he was knocked down by a projectile sent by the third one, which threw him away from the summoned ones, not allowing them to enslave him. Orochimaru stood up as if nothing had happened, but he was not happy at all. Naruto, this technique is too dangerous, I had to. I believe you, old man, thank you. I already seem to have overexerted myself. The sound of a flute was heard. Music? Some of the shinobi were affected by this technique, but Uzumaki was able to shake his head again and throw off the genjutsu. Smack. Uzumaki winced in pain and watched as his stomach was pierced by a huge bone from the hand of one of the opponents. He grabbed this bone with his hand. Crunch. He broke the spear and pulled it out of his body. But then, while he was distracted again, a bunch of bones jumped out of the building, which almost killed everyone who was on the roof. However, everyone here was experienced shinobi, and therefore there were no casualties, except for Naruto, who was raised on these peaks, but although he received many wounds, he was alive. Die. Boom. Kimimaro emerged from one of the appendages, but this time his hand couldn't break through the blonde's tense abs. The blonde grabbed his head, from which new bones began to grow, but he didn't let go of his hand, but grabbed the opponent's shoulder, which again dug into his hands with bones. Crunch. Kimimaro's head separated from his body and was thrown away. After all this, Uzumaki didn't look so good anymore. He was covered in blood, although the wound on his stomach was covered by his muscles, but the wound only closed and did not disappear. As soon as he looked around, he was attacked by some freaks with transparent things from their mouths. But they tried to grab him with these things, but immediately burned. You're in the way. 3 blows and all the opponents flew apart. Tayuya was soon tied up without the protection of her techniques when her flute was simply broken, which is why she lost most of her techniques. And Uzumaki himself saw how his allies were running after the fleeing Orochimaru. He hurried to slap him as quickly as possible. Bang. Right in front of Orochimaru's nose, a giant landed. Grab. There he was in his paws, and they began to press him into a ball with huge hands. Since you constantly change your body and crawl out of the mouth, then burn. This time Naruto summoned fire not with one finger, not with one hand, but with both, using all his strength to burn this freak to the ground. This snake was tenacious, but its regeneration was not enough to overcome it. Ha. Ha, Naruto's head started to spin, but he still wanted to help his village. VRA. A roar was heard from outside the village. It seems that now I know where I should go for help. Naruto. Don't you dare. Gaara wanted to kill this blonde, but now he wanted to kill this Uchiha too. He was running from him, but now he was able to summon all his Biju power, and then he went into a pseudo-sleep, let his demon destroy all his enemies and their village. VRA. The huge tanuki screamed, stunning the nearby shinobi. Ha 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 ha. I'm free. Oh, it seems like there's a place nearby where I can have some fun. The monster headed straight for the village. HM? Shikaku noticed some kind of bug landing in front of him. Are you completely nuts? Have you come to fight me? I won't let you. Huh. Huh. I won't let you hurt anyone. I only have enough for one more attack. I'll put everything I have left into it. Hey? A huge fireball began to grow between the blonde's hands, which he raised above his head. I'll wipe you out. Biju opened his mouth, preparing to attack with an air core. My chance. Eat. A fiery clot flew straight into the one-tailed's mouth. Bang. The creature's entire body was torn apart, and its jinchuriki flew off and landed not far from Uzumaki. He slowly, with stumbling legs, walked towards his opponent. What? Gaara woke up already on the ground. I can't move. What happened? Stomp stomp. Heavy footsteps were heard. With incredible effort, the red-haired man managed to turn his head in the direction of the steps. His face expressed horror, because he recognized those steps. Impossible. I couldn't lose to him. You lost. Your inner beast lost. I'm not afraid of overgrown hamsters. Naruto stood right above the loser. No. Please, don't touch him. Temari landed, shielding her brother from the monster. She knew she couldn't do anything to him, but this time she couldn't leave her brother alone. Why? Gaara couldn't believe that someone was protecting him, even standing in front of this monster. She's your sister, idiot. Or do you think these bonds are just empty words? I envy you, you have a sister who seems ready to die for you. Don't be afraid. Your Kazekage has lost. Your shinobi are running. I'm letting you go. That's enough fighting for today. Both Gaara and Temari were shocked, but decided not to linger to ask questions, especially since Gaara still had something to think about and rethink after his sister's actions. Sasuke and Sakura, who were sitting and watching from afar, preparing to support their friend, did not pursue the enemies, but they had questions for him. This is true? Yes, Suna is retreating, it seems we have one. Naruto, you look bad, you need to rest. Yes. We must. Uzumaki was finally able to relax. Bang. And then he fell, and his body transformed back even in the daytime. Naruto. After all this, he slept for a very long time. Commentary on 5. Little War. Second chapter title, 5, Exhaustion. Race against Naruto. Naruto vs. Sound 5 and Orochimaru. Naruto vs Shikaku. Shikaku was not at full strength, and his body was made of sand, so it was not as durable and his balls were not as powerful. https://www.youtube.com/watch?v=31ZJNRHR80A and T=1s. Interlude. Reward for the hero. Commentary on interlude. Reward for the hero. Escanor is not here, just a small digression. Oh. What are you doing here, young men? A voice suddenly rang out in the room where Uzumaki was lying. Oh. And nothing like that. Lord H. Hokage. Hey. Old man. Why are you bothering Hinata here? She decided to feed me until my hands get back to normal, and you almost made her faint. The blonde quickly chewed his food and started shouting for the old man not to interfere with him eating, he was very hungry. And Naruto Kekuin, you can't talk to Mr. Hokage like that. Hinata completely lost her nerve and her last speech was almost inaudible. From the very beginning, even when she was just feeding the patient, she was all red, and when she was caught she almost fainted, and now she allowed herself to correct the blonde. Ho ho. Forgive old man. Naruto-kun, Hinata-chan, for interrupting your feeding. I see that you are not doing anything bad. Forgive me, Hinata, I ruined such a moment for both of you. And no need to apologize, Mr. Hokage. You probably came to Naruto, and I'll still be unnecessary here. Thank you, Hinata-chan, I really need to talk to the sick man alone. I came here as soon as I was informed that our sick man had come to his senses. Why yes, sorry, I'll come back when you leave. Tomato quickly rushed past Hiruzen and disappeared behind the door. She needed to calm down, otherwise her heart was beating really fast from such awkwardness. They were caught by the ruler of the village himself. How awkward. Well, there you go. I still haven't eaten enough. Youth, the old man sat down by Uzumaki's bed, who looked like a mummy. After which he wanted to smoke, but decided that now was not the time and place. Sorry for ruining such a moment, perhaps I should not have rushed so much. But, since I already came, I couldn't turn back when I reached the door? Maybe. Did Hinata tell you the latest news? Yeah, Suna and I have a truce and all that. Yes, we were able to come to an agreement that will prevent the escalation of the conflict and its repetition, and will also allow Suna to return to what started it all. All of this. What else did she manage to tell you? That you managed to announce those who passed the Chunin exam. Now Uzumaki looked with some resentment and discontent, and also with regret. I thought you would start with this, but look how quiet you are. Actually, back then in the fight with Niji, you also behaved in such a way that no one could believe it. After all, only Shikamaru got through. Can you guess why? Well, Uzumaki fell silent, admitting mistakes and all that was terribly lame, and he wanted to jump out the window and run away, but then he would be a coward, unworthy of his teacher. You thought that I was not ready? Not worthy? And what do you think? The Hokage looked at the boy very carefully and very slyly. Everything inside me screams that you don't understand what a cool and strong shinobi I am. But that's not true, is it? The blonde looked at his interlocutor, who nodded smiling. Then, maybe I lack other qualities for this title? Right. The old man took a loud and long breath, and then exhaled. Who, if not this guy, deserved his personal time and conversation? After all, he really had the right to demand something for his actions and merits. I wrote down a mission of the highest rank for you, but I didn't put it anywhere. I ask you to keep it all a secret, the whole day, and not to remember it. You will receive a reward, you deserve it, but only in money. And as for the title, you really can compare in strength to Kage during the day. Yes. Bite me all. The blonde almost screamed, but held back, merely jumping up on the bed and shaking his bandaged limb at someone invisible. Although the way you injured your hands when you grabbed that bone shinobi was clearly not your best decision. Uzumaki immediately went sour and tried to scratch his head and laugh stupidly, but it came out somehow forced. You were justified by the fact that your sword was not with you, and blows to it would have cut you on its bones anyway, although you could have tried to burn it in the same way, but let's forget about that. A very inconvenient opponent for taijutsu, but you still defeated him in this way. Hee. Naruto was still flattered, but still awkward. Somehow I got really angry at him then. That's it. Kage and other high-ranking shinobi are not only strength, but also intelligence, experience, respect. You are strong, even if only for part of the day, and I believe that one day you will be able to be strong forever, but you are not ready yet. Do you know that the first stage after you wrote the test, it was collected and analyzed even from those who passed and those who did not? What? Is it true? Yes. Damn, how awkward. Uzumaki realized that the old man was aware of his mistake, and it seemed that he was not the only one, and his bravado back then did not save him from the damn test, to which he gave only one correct answer, and otherwise turned in a blank sheet. We also analyzed the actions in the battles in the arena. All the fighters of the first stage who managed to prove themselves there did not have time to demonstrate that they have an understanding of tactics. Most of them just went into battle without analysis and a plan. You managed to show that you can surprise, improvise, and fight, but tell me, are you ready to take on the title of commander, which a Chunin should be, and lead others? To risk not only your own life, but also theirs? No. Every time I rely on someone else's power to help me, Uzumaki, from the position of triumph when he was standing on the bed, gradually collapsed on it again. I don't think that Sasuke and Sakura will listen to me and follow me. They're in the forest. They grabbed me and tied me up. And then we all listened to that idiot, Sasuke. It was like he was our commander. You've matured a lot, Naruto. What you said to Neji back there in the arena, those were the right words. Does that mean you're on the right path to actually becoming a Chunin one day, and then maybe even Hokage? Yes. So it will be. Only it wasn't exactly me who decided that. Then in the arena I reached out to my teacher's power, but he didn't give it to me right away, but first he started talking. I didn't understand everything. But it seems he was trying to convey to me that I shouldn't use my power to prove something to everyone, but should try to become stronger myself. This power is needed to protect myself and my dear people in extreme situations. A wise man, this Escaner. Jiraiya told me about him, so don't be surprised, he consulted me about him. We both would like to see him for ourselves and talk. Yes, the teacher is really strong. Even the fox respects him. I can't even imagine how he achieved this. I can do it too. I will make others recognize me. And even this big bad guy will look at me not as a bug, but as his friend and comrade, someday. I hope you'll be lucky, I haven't heard of anyone befriending him before. Now rest and get better. Jiraiya might go on a mission soon and he wanted you to go with him. You want your friend Rock Lee to get better, right? Then we need a legendary medic who can get him back on his feet, and in general, we need such specialists now. Yes. I will definitely bring him here. That's good, and for now, I'll call Hinata. I think she'll be ready to look after you until the bandages are removed. The attention of girls is also a kind of reward, isn't it? The old man winked slyly at the boy, who didn't get the hint. He thought that Sakura would feed him like that, but for some reason she didn't come to him for long, devoting more time to Sasuke. It's good that Hinata is so kind that it's not hard for her to take care of him. Yes. And she will have a chance to reach out to someone. The blonde didn't hear this anymore. Equals 6. Searches. Coming. Naruto opened the door and stared at the face of the stranger with the Sharingan. His brain began to ask questions and try to figure out what was happening. Now he even accidentally almost confused this guy with Sasuke. Listen, is this kid really a nine-tailed one? That guy was described as a bigger bully than me. They called him the proud lion. And this is some lion cub. No, a cowardly kitten. Behind the obvious Uchiha, a blue-faced freak spoke up. A huge blue-faced freak. This nickname really started to flash in relation to the guy who was remembered by many for his strange behavior and how he threw away his victory for reasons unknown to many. He was also the one about whom, although they did not talk about his merits and tried to keep them secret, but even so, the nickname stuck to him among those who knew some things about him. He even managed to appear in the bingo book, although there was little information about him, and the portrait in it was completely different from his real form, but very similar to the form under Escaner's power. What? The cry of the indignant and angry Naruto unpleasantly cut into the ears of the listeners. It was heard far away. With some delay, but Uzumaki's brain processed the heard information and, in his opinion, singled out the main thing from the speech of strangers. Am I a cowardly kitten? So you know, I'm so brave that 10. No, 1,000 like you would be enough. You. Blue-faced ugly mutant fishman. You. Brave? No, you seem very stupid. The said mutant suddenly felt a strong desire to hurt one boar very much. Uzumaki sensed this, and his courage immediately diminished. Kisame, calm down. Naruto-kun, you'll have to come with us. Uzumaki was thinking in panic again, because he didn't understand what was happening, but he felt a threat from somewhere and that these were enemies not of his level. However, he was no longer so scared and confused. His anger helped him to really find courage, which, although after the yaki of these two, diminished again, did not disappear. Come out, Uchiha ordered. Naruto himself didn't understand why he left the room. Itachi-san, shall we begin? The fishman grabbed the bundle behind his back. First, let's cut off his leg. Otherwise, he might run away. The blonde's brain was clearly slowing down and was not producing thoughts that were normal for such a moment. His analytical abilities clearly could not understand that he was about to be killed, but subconsciously he understood something similar. But he could not put these feelings together into a complete picture. So, Blue began to pull his bundle, but suddenly froze. Long time no see. Sasuke. Uchiha Itachi. To Uzumaki's surprise, his friend, Sasuke, did show up. And then the blonde was surprised by what he heard and saw. Sasuke has a brother. This brother slaughtered his clan, and it is him that Sasuke wants to kill. And then Sasuke tried to put his goal into practice, but unsuccessfully. His arm was broken, and Uzumaki tried to call on his strength while the enemies were distracted. Without it, these two are too tough for him, because Sasuke lost very quickly. As much as Uzumaki wanted to deny it, he wasn't sure he could defeat his comrade on his own. Kisame and Itachi sensed it, and so the elder quickly neutralized the younger, breaking his arm. After which both prepared to neutralize the Jinchuriki, whose chakra was growing and thickening very quickly. Time was approaching its zenith. And you've grown up. Now I see that they weren't lying about you. What a proud look, as if we were no longer a threat to you. Kisame swung his sword near the blonde's body, trying to draw all the chakra out of the enemy while there wasn't much of it yet. My sword devours chakra. Naruto's face showed surprise, and for a second he felt weakness, which immediately passed, filling with ever-increasing strength. The bundle that Kisame swung squealed and began to smoke, and teeth and smoke appeared from the tip. What? Samahata? What's wrong with you? You've only absorbed such a small part of his chakra, Is it a mere trifle for you? So, what is the Nine-Tails chakra? So poisonous and dangerous that you can't digest it? Now I believe that this will be interesting. Although, maybe I should have just knocked you out quickly before you took this form? Both caped warriors prepared for battle, for they began to take the enemy seriously, feeling his chakra and strength, as well as the ever-increasing threat. You have as much chakra as I do now, and yet they call me a monster, the tailless bijou. It's a pity that I haven't managed to learn the sealing technique yet, although Jiraiya started teaching me. I'm still far from mastering it myself. Uzumaki didn't seem to see a threat in the two highest-ranking missing nin. He spoke as if not for them, but for himself, and he seemed untroubled by the proximity of a dangerous fight. It's good that for now, he sealed my sword instead of me. Naruto silently took out a scroll, from which he unsealed the aforementioned. Poof. Kubikiribocho? You took it from little Zabuza? Kisame grinned. Sasuke, will you be very upset with me for beating your brother, and maybe even killing him for you? As if not noticing the threat and not taking the enemy seriously at all, Uzumaki turned to his friend. No need. To everyone's surprise, the named one stood up. Mine. I'm not interested in you at all right now. Bang. Bang. Itachi kicked his brother, slamming him into the wall, from which he fell to the floor. Bang. Whoosh. Uzumaki, when he saw his friend being attacked, struck the mutant with his sword with both hands, who blocked it with his sword. Despite the fact that the blue-faced one was very strong, he was blown away by the blow, sending him flying straight towards his partner, who was standing with his back to them. That's how they were both blown into the broken wall. Naruto. I told you. Don't. Sasuke looked bad, but he couldn't seem to back down and admit defeat. This is my fight. You. Kisame got a jab at his swordsman pride, and therefore wanted a rematch in a sword fight. Sasuke, you wanted to revive your clan and kill this man. The way the blonde did not notice the threat from the two missing nin, and also ignored them, was starting to piss off the blue one. You completely forgot that if you die, your clan will be forgotten and erased from history. What do you put higher? Revenge on the past, or the future? You don't understand. It seemed like the guy was having trouble speaking. I have to. Don't ignore me. Kisame rushed with his sword at the blonde, who still did not take his eyes off his opponents. Bang. Bang. Uzumaki did not go on the defensive, but dealt the first blows, which the swordsman no longer took with a hard block, but began to dodge and only deflect. You don't even know how to fight with this sword. You wield it like a bat. You launched me. Bang. Boom. Unlike Kisame, Uzumaki could hit with one hand with almost the same force as his opponent with both, and so he simply swung his sword with one, forcing the enemy to open up, and struck him with his fist with the other. This blow knocked him down again, and although he managed to regroup and did not take the entire blow, he was knocked into the wall, breaking the hotel even more. You must revive your clan too. You admitted it yourself. If you want, then take revenge, but first leave behind someone who will continue the work of reviving the clan. Give birth to and raise a bunch of children to fulfill this goal, and then go wherever you want. I envy you. So many girls are running after you, even she. I realized that she may never love me, and therefore I am ready to let her go so that she can be happy. Even if it is with you. If not me, then someone else may have time to kill him, then revenge will no longer be possible, but only you can revive your own clan, and therefore you must survive. As long as he is alive, I can't. While you are alive, you can, but if you die, you can't. My family won't let me leave. I have to kill him before I start her. And if you lose, you will never have one. Would your family want you to avenge them, or would you want you to live for them and continue your line? Return the clan to greatness and numbers? Now the youngest brother fell silent, remembering what his parents would have wanted. They would like you to kill me. Itachi didn't let that topic be pursued further. I think he wants you to stop reviving your clan. Sasuke. Are you following his lead? Like a donkey after a carrot? You'll only die in vain if you continue to do what he wants. What he really wants is for you to be weak and alone, to come to him unprepared, and then he can use you for his own purposes. Don't fall for it. Don't interfere in our affairs. Itachi stood in front of Uzumaki, and their gazes met, and then Uzumaki found himself in chains. Click. Straining, the blonde simply broke them and they dissolved. Genjutsu? You were able to throw off my genjutsu so easily? Another exchange of glances. This time, the blonde's entire body was pierced by thick iron rods, which seemed to cause real pain, not allowing him to move. Naruto. Don't look into his eyes. He'll put you under genjutsu like that. Sasuke tried to save his comrade. It's too late, he's already. And again Uzumaki strained and broke the illusory rods, and they dissipated. Sasuke, so what have you decided? Uzumaki turned most of his attention to his teammate. You're an idiot. Do whatever you want, but don't you dare die yourself, Naruto. Even such a stubborn person couldn't convince one stubborn blonde, but the opposite worked out quite well. Now Uzumaki finally fully focused on the enemy and looked into the eyes of the eldest of the brothers again. You've already heard my stupid little brother and you still keep looking into my eyes? What kind of stupid pride is this? Don't you understand the power of my eyes? I don't care what kind of eyes someone has, and so on, I'll beat you up for my friend. It's time to teach you a lesson, and then my brother too. Tsukuyami. Uzumaki realized himself pierced by iron all over his body so that he could not move, and at the same time he was burning and at the same time he was being electrocuted. In the sky of this world there was a full moon, and everything around was in unusual colors, but even knowing that he was in an illusion, he could not dispel it. Gritting his teeth, the blonde managed not to scream in pain, all his muscles were tense, but he could not dispel the illusion. You're holding up well, but you can't escape from here. In this reality, I command everything, space and time. The whole time, from the very beginning of the illusion. The boy's torture did not stop, but he still did not start screaming and could think adequately. Only a minute has passed, and there are still 72 hours ahead. Whoosh. What? The blonde's body caught fire, and now not by Itachi's will and desire. The blonde himself began to exude heat, which melted his bonds and began to burn everything around him. If you are so cool, then why didn't your clan become the rulers of the entire world? Don't answer, I already know. You are not that cool, and there have always been those who were cooler than you. I am sure that even this thing could not get through to the previous Hokage, which means that I, as the one who will one day receive this title, cannot succumb to it. Impossible. The Uchiha's world began to burn and now it had normal colors, and the moon turned into the sun. Cough, he said these words, clutching his eye and staggering, he fell to his knee already in the real world, because his genjutsu was destroyed, and not by a member of his clan. Perhaps something like this was really available to those who were at the level of Kage, but from a genin, and at that age, he did not expect it. Tsukuyami. You. So you have taken the pose that is right for you. Maybe you will give in and then, maybe you will even be able to live until the moment when your brother will be strong enough to kill you himself. And you will also be able to see how he will revive the clan. Why are you protecting him and being so protective? Itachi gathered himself and stood up. He is my comrade. He is my friend. You are hindering him. You are trying to knock him off his path to his goal, you are holding him back and not letting him move on. When I kill you, he will return to his old path and will not turn back, because it seems you mean a lot to him. Your death will make him stronger, for he will see the death of his dear friend and awaken the power of his eyes. This time he should have enough strength for it. The conversation between the two shinobi was interrupted by the returning swordsman, who tried to attack Uzumaki from behind, but he was covered by a toad summoned by Jiraiya. After a short conversation about what a cool pickup artist the Sannin was, the Akatsuki members retreated, but Uzumaki rushed after them, and the white-haired one was already behind him, complaining that the blonde was clearly brainless and without brakes. The race lasted a long time. They all left the city limits, having managed to reach a large body of water. The pursued almost did not even try to break away or throw off the pursuers. Even Uzumaki understood that it was a trap, but he still went there, and behind him the Sannin, who was unable to stop him, was all that was left for him to do was to cover for the wayward student. Despite his bravado, Jiraiya understood that even for him it would not be so easy to deal with two such dangerous shinobi, and his threat to kill them was just a bluff, because even one-on-one everything could have happened exactly the opposite. Kisame jumped to the water and Uzumaki went to him. During the run, he still managed to exchange words with his older comrade and he insisted on the plan that each of them would take on one Uchiha on Jiraiya and Kisame on Naruto. And so they did. As soon as Uzumaki stood on the water, a huge mass of water pulled him to the bottom, creating a huge water prison where he could not breathe, and the enemy, having merged with his sword, was a fish in water in the literal sense. Now you will pay for underestimating me. Your fire element is weaker than my water. What? What a fool, it's useless. Uzumaki did not try to surface or swim away, as anyone else would have done. He raised his hands and folded them to create his fireball. Now he himself seemed to understand that it would not work and changed his position, now his whole body tensed. Kisame swam up from behind to hurt him. Ksha. Boiling water? BRL. The water began to boil and almost turned into a whirlpool. Is he going to boil all the water here? Huh? Did he start to glow? Kisame was no longer laughing, he was swimming further and further away from the center of the reservoir, in the middle of which was his opponent, since all the water really began to boil. When he got to the shore trying not to boil, he couldn't believe that the entire surface was boiling and steaming. So you got out of the water. Naruto himself also appeared out, having climbed out of the depths. From the very beginning, I felt how you were trying to hold me back. When you broke contact with the water, I stopped feeling the hold. I could have simply floated up, since I had enough strength to move, but I'm sure that you could have continued to hold the water around me. And that's why you boiled everything here? Samahata had already separated from its owner and became a sword again. You've become even bigger? Just a pumped-up freak. A mountain of muscles without brains. And where's Kubikuribocho? Did he lose it or something? I don't want to melt it. It's been sealed again now. 20 minutes to the zenith. In 5 minutes, this power will not grow gradually, but will increase several times. I can already feel my body starting to burn. I need to do everything quickly and return to normal, otherwise I will really burn from it. Let's finish, I still need to help the old man with your partner. A giant ball of fire began to grow on the blonde's hand. You seem to have decided that because you have a lot of chakra, it means you are invincible? VSH. Blue literally spat out enough water to fill a lake. After which he directed this entire water mass, which took the form of a giant shark, at the enemy. And the blonde himself fired his charge at the mutant. Even if my Samahata cannot absorb his chakra, this technique does not care, it absorbs the enemy's chakra and only becomes stronger. He may have a mountain of chakra, but... Bang! The fireball went about halfway through the water shark that swallowed it, but then, instead of dying down it exploded, hitting Kisame who was seriously burned and scalded. He couldn't move anymore, and his sword that was healing his wounds hadn't even managed to crawl up yet. And they both had almost no chakra left. You wanted to cut off my arms or legs, kidnap me, so there's no point in me feeling sorry for you. But the blonde, although he was also hit, was fine. Smack. He crushed the blue one's body and head with his foot. Samahata let out a pitiful squeal. Are you crying for your master? He grabbed her, but the sword tried to release spikes, but they did not pierce the blonde. The sword did not suck his chakra, because it was scorching, but even so, this thing did not take its form, like the previous owner, but broke out